Hi. This week, in week 6, we read chapter 7, essay by Deb Margolin, Minding My Own Business. And also we read the essay Practicing the Paradox by Peter Lobdell. And I wanted to share that I really enjoyed reading Margolin's essay, and I went online to see if I could find more about her. I ended up finding her website, and she has a lot of videos on there. The one I watched ended up being one where she was visiting a university, I think it was Penn State, and she was visiting a beginning theater class and talking to the class, and it was just really interesting to hear her speak. And a lot of the things that she talked about in the interview were also in the article or in the essay that we read. And so just some of the things that stuck out to me are when she said, we live as if we were making choices and charting our own courses. And I just felt like, she's saying like real life is acting, and acting is real life. So where is the line between real life and acting? There's a fine line between it, right? And sometimes I feel like we, even as people, humans, we do act, even when we're not meaning to. It's just something that we do. And that can be just in day-to-day conversation with people we know, or, obviously in the classroom as teachers, we act all the time. We put on our game face and we go. But I feel like reading that just kind of made me think about, there's times where I feel like I do act when I'm talking to my boss or my mother or my child or my spouse. Like, that's a very real thing. And so that really stood out to me. She also talked about multiple choice acting, which I found interesting, and the actors use a lot of different sources to draw from, effective memory, relationships, and responses to characters on stage, imaginary circumstances. Those are things that she talked about, and that when different choices are used, the result is a consistent engagement with the act of performing that makes for a repeatable vitality. So I found that very interesting as well. And then the last takeaway for that article was when she says, method is all about the problem of redistributing autobiography. We cannot perform what we do not imagine, and we cannot imagine that which is not within us to be conceived. We have nothing but ourselves. So I was like, wow, that's really deep. And I just connected with that a lot too. And I feel like, this is where we get our creative inspiration from who we are, our background, our experiences, everything about us and our history is where our inspiration comes from, and how we make that into our art. And so that was just like very eye-opening for me as well. The second article was Practicing the Paradox. And I found some of my things I really liked, and that was, let's see. So he says, creativity is metamorphic. Finding connections is the essence of creativity. The method's exercises foster those connections by tuning actors' psychological instruments. So again, I was really just struck by that. The other thing in that one is that an actor needs to be able to use both effectively, talking about their psychological instruments and their imaginations and experiences. And then I kind of talked about in the article how the word psyche means the human mind, soul, or spirit. And so when we're talking about psychological instruments on stage, we are using our mind, soul, and spirit. Again, this is all the, this is very psychological, but when we're talking about the method and the techniques that the method taught, we do have to use our psychology. And so that was just another segment of that stood out to me. And I think the other one is, Lobdell said, critics charge that the method asks actors to use themselves as the material for their characters. And he said this, and I said this too, is like, well, then who else are we going to use if we don't use ourselves? We know ourselves best, right? So who else to use but ourselves? And again, I think that just kind of also goes back to, you know, understanding that when we are acting as a character, we have to be ourselves, but at some point we have to also say, you know, this is not me. It's another character I'm trying to portray, and I might have different reactions to situations than this character would. And so I think we need to look at that and make sure that we're acting in a way that is not us reacting, but the character reacting. And so I found that really interesting as well. Overall, the method is a lot of different things to a lot of different people, and I think that the fact that so many exceptional actors have learned from the method and have came out of it is enough to kind of prove that the method does work, you know, and take what you want and use it and leave the rest, throw it away the rest, as Robert Lewis said. So that's it for today. Thank you.